here to the other major story tonight, the deadly plane crash, the images of that team celebrating along the way on their journey. But then the flight overnight crashing, nearly everyone on board was killed. The flight was carrying a Brazilian soccer team to a finals match, crashing on a hillside in Colombia. And we have just learned here what happened right before that crash. That team had so much to look forward to, celebrating a Cinderella rise on their way to a playoff game. 71 people killed, but miraculously, 6 were found outside the plane. Somehow they survived. ABC's David Curley on what happened in those final moments.
Only part of the fuselage of the jet was left intact, having slammed into a hill above Medellin. Through the day, the grim task of recovering the bodies of the 71 on board who were killed. But remarkably, those 6 survivors found away from the fuselage. It was to be a joyous trip for the regional Brazilian soccer team, the Chapecoense, making a big tournament for the first time in its history, documenting their trip in the airport, then selfies on board. And the tale of these 2 players. Alan Ruschel, with the beard, a defender, one of the 2 players who survived. Next to him, Danilo Padilla, a goalkeeper, found alive. He was actually able to call his family, but then died from his injuries. And the heartbreaking story of this 22-year-old player who was killed, his family releasing this video from just last week when he learned that he would be a father. In their hometown, fans stunned by the loss. The jet, a British Aerospace 146, was owned by a charter company. It's often used to get into difficult airports, which Medellin is. ABC consultant Steve Ganyard has flown into that airport.
Even in the daytime, it's a very sporty place because not only do you have this very rugged terrain, but there's oftentimes weather.
On the last leg of its flight, nearly 5 hours from Bolivia, the short-haul jet starts circling around Medellin in bad weather. The crew reports an electrical failure, declaring an emergency, then disappearing from radar. The black boxes have been recovered, but with an electrical failure, did they continue to record? And did the crew have enough navigational instruments?
If you're on battery power, you don't know where you are. In this case, when you throw weather, nighttime, high terrain, and no navigation, it's a recipe for disaster.
Colombian authorities say the tail hit the top of a mountain, with the rest of the jet sliding down the other side. The question tonight, where were those 6 survivors sitting, and how did they survive when so many others perished?
So the tail of the jet hitting that mountain, and David Curley, who covers aviation for us, there were some members of that team who did not board that flight?
2 members, actually, David, because of injuries, stayed home and were dejected. They were in the locker room today, having lost the majority of their team. Also, the coach's son was supposed to be on the plane. He forgot his passport. He, too, survives. Really a hole in that community in Brazil tonight.
Yeah, just a horrible picture there of those 2 team members learning of the news. David, thank you.